Welcome to Barca News. It is July 8th, 2026. So we have a lot of exciting news for you today, including that it's been revealed what Barcelona's plans are for Hamza Abdelkarim, and I'm going to tell you what they are. Also, Barcelona have received a boost in the pursuit of Julian Alvarez, and finally, Eli Junior Kroupi. Well, he's open to coming to Barcelona, but there is a catch, and I'm going to tell you what that catch is. We have a lot to discuss, so let's begin. Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. My name is Mo. Welcome to the Barca News Live podcast, which is on every Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, where not only we discuss Barcelona news, but of course where I get to interact with you lovely people in the chat section by reading your comments, answering your questions, and getting a discussion going. So, stuffing it out the chat section with everything you want to say, any questions, any comments, anything you want to add, drop it in the chat section so we can get this going. But now, for those of you who will be watching when the podcast ends, I will be putting timestamps in the description, the chapters in the timeline in case you do want to skip through the discussion and get straight into the news. Even though I don't recommend that because I feel like the discussion is the best part of the podcast. You guys see my dog? You guys see that? Right, there you go. Right here. Just chilling. Best life ever. Just chilling. Anyways, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, drop a comment. If you're looking for any Barcelona kits or merchandise or any football team kits or merchandise, you can head to Kitback. If you're looking for any other sports gear like basketball, football, etc., you can head to Fanatics. Both links in the description. You click on them. You get access to discounts, offers, things that otherwise you would not get if you went straight into the website, right? And finally, if you want to place any sports bets on World Cup matches or on any sporting event, UFC, boxing, you name it, then you can head to a Bet Us link also in the description. I think you get $200 free if you open an account. So if you're into that, well, it's there for you. Anyways, that is all as far as the intro. Let's begin with the news. Because we do have a lot of exciting news. And as always, the first segment of news is comprised of multiple bits of news combined together for the sake of brevity. Started with our sporting director, Deco De Souza. Is it De Souza? Yeah, it's De Souza. I think that's his last name. Anyways, Deco, our sporting director, because he is still at work. Now, you guys might recall from a previous video, I told you how Deco had gotten on a plane and flown here to the U.S. to watch World Cup matches. And no, he wasn't here on a tourist trip. He wasn't here to see the Statue of Liberty or visit the Golden Gate Bridge or go gamble in Vegas. No, the reason he was here, it was to work. For starters, he's here to watch Barcelona players play in World Cup matches. And if you're wondering, Mo, why would Deco want to watch Barca players play? They're Barca players. He could watch them back home. Well, as you know, he wants to see, for example, he was here to see Rafinha and how he was recovering from his injury. But Brazil are out now, so no need to worry about that. Then he was here to watch Koundé as well to see how he's doing with France, since, you know, there's a lot of speculation around Koundé. And then, of course, the second reason he was here was also to watch players that are not Barca players, right? Players who could potentially become Barca players in the future. And the third reason why he's here in the U.S., it's in order to, you know, network, right? Because the World Cup draws a lot of, not just a lot of players and coaches, but also agents and sporting directors from other clubs, scouts from other clubs. So he was here, you know, to mingle, get to meet people, improve the relationship between Barca and other organizations. And while it's reported that Deco has already met with several agents of many different players, he's already watched several matches where non-Barca players were playing. We don't have the details yet of what agents he has met with or what players he was watching, but we do know that he did that. So that, of course, is good news because we never know what can come out of these meetings. Of course, as time goes by, I'm sure we're going to know more about which agents Deco met with and which players he watched. But for now, just know that he did. Again, we don't know the names, but we know that he did. And again, this is good because, you never know what will come out of these meetings. Now, the next bit of news, it concerns Barcelona in an indirect way. But ladies and gentlemen, it has been confirmed the former Barcelona player, the former La Masia graduate, Oscar Mingueza, the 27-year-old right back, has officially joined the Premier League by becoming a Crystal Palace player. He, of course, Oscar Mingueza left Barcelona and joined Rayo Vallecano, where he, no, not Rayo Vallecano, Celta Vigo. What am I saying? Celta Vigo, where he improved a lot. And as such, he drew interest from many, many European clubs. And now he has left Celta Vigo and joined Crystal Palace. Now, why am I mentioning this? This is actually more of a bad news than, well, good news for Oscar Mingueza because he gets to go to Premier League and continue his career. But bad news for Barcelona because when Barcelona transferred Oscar Mingueza to Rayo, sorry, why do I keep saying Rayo? To Celta Vigo, Barcelona retained 50% of the rights of the player, which means whatever transfer fee Celta could have made off him, Barcelona would have made half. But unfortunately, Oscar Mingueza left as a free agent. His contract with Celta expired on June 30th. He has joined Crystal Palace as a free agent, which means Barcelona will not be making any money off this transfer, which is an absolute shame. There were a lot of clubs interested in him. For example, Juventus were willing to pay 20 million euros for him, but that didn't materialize. Had that happened, Barcelona would have made 10 million, right? But unfortunately, Barcelona will not be making any money. Neither is Celta. Instead, Crystal Palace gets to take our former academy graduate as on a free basis. Now, the last bit of news is that Barcelona are launching another effort to try to sign Jesse Bisiwu. Now, we've talked about Jesse Bisiwu many, many times on the channel. We've been talking about him for several months. He's an 18-year-old left winger who plays for Club NXT, which is the reserve team of Club Brugge. In other words, it's like the Barça Athletic of Club Brugge. Someone that's incredibly promising. He has speed, he has dribble, he has creativity, he has a good shot, good technical ability. Pretty much kind of like a Lamine Yamal, but on the other side, on the left side. I'm not saying that he is Lamine Yamal or he is as good as Lamine Yamal, but think about that profile of Lamine Yamal. That's kind of like Jesse Bisiwu, but on the left side, someone that Barcelona have been tracking for quite some time. In fact, Deco even traveled with Joao Amaral to Belgium. They sat down with the player, his agent, and his entourage to express Barcelona's interest. Barcelona made an offer to Club Brugge for the signing of Jesse Bisiwu, which they rejected. And of course, from there, that kind of cooled off the entire interest of Barcelona. Barcelona thought that it was a pretty good deal, but Club Brugge said no. Bisiwu's contract does expire next summer, so he will be entering the final year of his contract. They've tried multiple times to renew him. They know they have an incredibly promising player that many clubs would pay a lot of money for, and that's why they've tried to renew him, but he has held his ground and doesn't want to renew. Club Brugge have tried to put pressure on him. They have relegated him to the bench. Even in the Champions League semifinal, the Youth Champions League semifinal against Real Madrid, Barcelona sent scouts to watch him, and knowing that there were scouts watching him, Club Brugge elected to only play him during the final 4 minutes of the match, even though he could have maybe helped them win because they ended up losing at the hands of Real Madrid. So they were even willing to sacrifice their victory to put pressure on him to force him to renew. And despite all of Club Brugge's efforts to renew him and to put pressure on him, he has told them F you time and time again. He's not going to renew. So now Barcelona will be renewing their efforts to sign him. Again, Barcelona not going to increase their offer by that much. It's kind of like, look, this is your last chance to make money. Here is some money, and we can take him off your hands. If not, look, everything you've done hasn't worked. He's not going to renew. Next summer, we'll come back and take him for free. So Club Brugge, what the hell are you guys doing? This is your chance to make money. It's either some money or nothing, right? We'll see if this time they seed, but Barcelona are launching another effort to sign Jesse Bisiwu, who has been dubbed the new Dembele, right? Not because he's as good as Dembele or he's gonna be as good as Dembele, but because he's that kind of profile, very, very fast, can dribble past defenders, great crosses, great shots, you name it. But anyways, that's all for the first segment of news. Again, Deco meeting with Asians in the World Cup. Oscar Mingueza going to Crystal Palace, but Barcelona not making any money. And then Barcelona will try once again to sign Jesse Bisiwu. All right, let's start with the comment section. And then we will talk about Hamza Abdelkarim because Barcelona have some pretty interesting plans for him. I'm going to tell you what those plans are. All right, let's see. Jeff, who says, Adeyemi Broski. Okay, I did see the reports. I see a lot of reports stating that Barcelona have supposedly submitted an offer for Karim Adeyemi. I will not be talking about that during this podcast, and you know why? Because so far I have not been able to verify it. I'm very aware of the reports. I have seen the reports, but I have not been able to confirm it from sources close to the club. And that's why I won't be discussing it. Now, this doesn't mean that it's a lie. It doesn't mean that it's a hoax. It's just me being me. When I only like to talk about things on a channel that I've already confirmed several times over several sources, right? I think I've made, in the 4 years I've had this channel, I made the mistake one time of not confirming a report. I think it was a report. Oh my God, what's that Argentine player that Manchester City ended up signing? I forgot his name, but I came across a report saying that Barcelona had reached an agreement to sign him. My dumbass was so happy. I immediately posted it on the channel. It wasn't a video because it was late at night. I posted it in the community tab, and well, lo and behold, it turned out to be a lie. I learned my lesson, and now, unless I can confirm a report from several sources close to the club, I don't usually talk about it. So yes, I am aware of the report saying that Barcelona have submitted an offer for Karim Adeyemi. I have not been able to confirm it independently. So this is why I will not be talking about it during this podcast. But if I am able to confirm it from sources close to the club, then I will be making a video about it. But yes, I am aware of it. Thank you for bringing it up. Barca Mama says it's been less than 24 hours since the last game. I'm so bored today. I miss soccer. I 100% agree with you. I actually texted some friends today. I said, I'm legit going into withdrawals. I'm like, what am I supposed to do with myself today? You know what I did during my lunch hour? I started watching the last 20 minutes of the Argentina versus Egypt match because I just needed to watch something. I was like, I need to watch the football, and there was no football on, so I was like, I had to watch the last 20 minutes. But thankfully, tomorrow football will be back on. And yeah, because I woke up shaking and with a fever and sweating. I'm like, how do you football? How do you football? Football, Let's see. Joe says, big up Mo. Hope all is well on your end. Any word on the fee of Adeyemi? Again, I haven't been able to confirm it independently speaking. So once I do, don't worry. The video will be coming. Carlos says, hey Mo, pretty sure you will make a video about Adeyemi, but this is really exciting. This man was a beast and has so much potential with Hansi. The attacker will be completely insane with his intensity. I agree. My guess will be he's going to be a replacement for Rooney Bardarji if this news is correct, because, he does play on the right. So, yeah, I welcome it. I mean, if we can have... So we brought Rooney as a substitute for Lamine, but he barely played because he was not ready, right? So if we can bring Adeyemi, I mean, we're talking about definitely someone that can replace Lamine Yamal. And that way we can rest Lamine a lot more than we did last season. Because last season we weren't able to rest him. And people used to say, oh, what the hell? What was wrong with Flick? He doesn't rest Lamine, blah, blah, blah. And then when Lamine gets injured and he starts putting in Rooney, they're like, okay, now it makes sense why Flick wasn't resting Lamine as much as we would have wanted to, because Rooney was a mess, right? He was not ready. But if this Adeyemi report is true, which again, I'm not saying it's not, I just haven't been able to verify it myself. And once I do, I will definitely make a video about it. Then we could see Lamine now getting rested a lot more, which is great, because if Lamine can get rested more, he's gonna be fresh a lot more for a lot more important matches, which means we can depend a lot on him a lot more for important matches. And as far as Adeyemi, I mean, he would be a great substitute, someone that can put up big numbers. So even when Lamine is resting or is injured or is suspended, it's not like, oh man, Lamine is out. What are we gonna do? We're aft. No, we could be like, all right, cool. We got Karim. Like, we good. We're good, right? Obviously, Lamine is still better, but to go from Lamine to Adeyemi is a much smaller step as far as from Lamine to Rooney, right? So, again, if I confirm this, I will make a video about it. Don't worry. I see a lot of people excited about this news. Make Barca says, Mo, can we accept Madrid and Ronaldo media and do is the strongest source to spread any narratives? Are you seeing the Messi hate campaign right now? Oh, big time. By the way, I saw that, and I don't know how true this is, because it wasn't really an interest of me to confirm, but I saw a lot of people. I saw some reports saying that apparently there's been a lot of content creators receiving contracts, like to get paid to trash talk Argentina and Messi. Which again, I haven't been able to verify if that's true or not, but if I wouldn't be surprised if it is, right? I wouldn't be surprised if it is, because, these days, unfortunately, we live in a world of made up reality, right? These days, it's not about what reality truly is. It's about what you can sell to the people through social media. Unfortunately, social media has become such a horrible tool for people who want to do a lot of harm, right? Because these days everybody's on social media, especially the younger generations, right? And these days you can make people believe anything on social media. And a lot of people out there, a lot of powerful people have realized that. So these days it's like, it's not really about what true. We live kind of like in an alternate reality where facts don't matter, where the truth doesn't matter, where what actually happening doesn't matter. It's about what you can make people believe. And these days, people believe anything on social media, unfortunately. I mean, you can make any fake report, and, Barcelona just signed Mbappe, just post it on social media, and there's gonna be a lot of people who gonna believe it. And I think there's like two reasons for that. Part of it is, unfortunately, as we've seen, investment in education has been decreasing with every year for the past several decades. So now, unfortunately, people are stupid. There's no other way to put it, right? People have gotten dumber and dumber. People don't know how to reason on their own. People don't know how to fact check on their own. People don't know how to research on their own. So instead, whatever they see, they believe, right? It's pretty easy to fool people these days. You just post anything on social media, and as long as it looks somewhat legit, maybe sprinkle some truth in there, people will run with it, because, we've lost that ability to reason and to rationalize on our own, right? And another reason, aside from the decreased investment in education, which has in turn produced a whole generation of idiots, we also have AI. AI is making people very lazy, right? Yeah, AI is people no longer think, people no longer rationalize, people no longer do research. People just want easy. Just let me put a prompt and let AI answer. So I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised that those reports are true, that that content creators are being offered lucrative contracts to just spread misinformation about Argentina and about Messi, because, again, we live in an alternate reality where it's not about truth or facts. It's about what you can make people believe. And if you can make people believe that, hey, this World Cup is rigged and FIFA is just trying to make Messi win, then you get away with it, right? And here's the crazy thing, which a lot of these idiots are not asking themselves, and it's like, what would FIFA benefit from as far as making Messi win? 2 World Cups in a row. Because remember, the two hottest selling players for the longest time were Messi and Ronaldo. So when you're picking one over the other, you are halving your profit, right? If you can have Messi win 1 World Cup, like if you were to actually rig it, you can have Messi win 1 World Cup and Penaldo win the other. That's gonna generate you a lot more money than just having Messi rig it so Messi can win it 2022 and rig it again so he can win it now, right? And that's what they don't realize. It's like it just doesn't add up. But it's like why? Why would FIFA just choose Messi? Like why not choose Ronaldo? Which, by the way, Ronaldo has a lot more marketing power than Messi does. He has more followers, and he sells a lot more because he's your typical. He's more of the guy that a lot of insoles want to be like, right? He's tall, he's buff, he's good looking, he lives in big houses and drives fast cars and dates models, as opposed to Messi, the short guy who's been with the same girl since high school and etc. Right? So actually, Penaldo has a lot more marketing power. So if you were, first of all, you benefit a lot more than by rigging it for one and then rigging it for the other, right? Because then you double your profits. But if you were to pick one over the other, it makes a lot more sense to pick Penaldo over Messi because Penaldo has more marketing appeal, more sex appeal, and that sells a lot more, right? So, but of course, like I said, we live in a time where people don't think. So these kind of questions they don't ask themselves. They don't ask themselves, why would FIFA want to rig it for Messi? They don't, because people have become stupid. They've become lazy. They've become desensitized to thinking. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they are offering these lucrative contracts to content creators to just spread this story about how the whole thing is rigged, right? But what can we do? What can we do? The only thing we could do is I can do my part and try to spread some kind of awareness, but unfortunately, people don't want to listen, right? People want the lazy way out. People just want to be told what to think. Oh, it's rigged. Okay. It's a lot easier to admitting, well, maybe Messi is better than Penaldo. Just rigged, right? We live in an age where people don't want to assume responsibility anymore, where people don't want to deal with disappointment or loss anymore. It's a lot easier to just blame an external factor, And this is all across generations, by the way. I mean, here in the U.S., right? We have a president who for years keeps saying that the elections were rigged because he lost them, instead of just saying, look, I lost. And then I came back stronger and I won an election. No, it's just easier to say I lost because it's rigged, right? And this is what we're dealing with. We're dealing with people who just don't know how to deal with disappointment, don't know how to deal with loss. It's a lot easier to just cry and say, make up excuses and just trying to justify defeat. It's we're creating pretty much a generation of losers, because that's what this is, right? Because only losers make up excuses to justify their loss. True winners, true champions, they say, fuck, I lost. Let me figure out why I lost, and then let me make sure that doesn't happen again. Losers, unfortunately, say, oh, I lost. Well, it's not because of me. It's because they don't want me to win. They hate me. It's rigged. It's unfair. They come up with a million excuses because that's the only way they can deal with defeat. But here's the thing about being a loser. You're never going to become a champion that way. Because until you actually sit down and say, okay, how can I get better? You're going to keep doing the same thing, because why wouldn't you keep doing the same thing? After all, it's not your fault, right? It's rigged. So you got nothing to worry about. There's nothing to improve. So it's unfortunate, but we truly are seeing the decline of human civilization in thinking and intelligence and education, and something as basic as knowing how to deal with defeat and overcoming it. And Sanjak with a donation. Thank you so much, my friend. But Sanjak says Penaldo fans are saying his teammates support him like Messi's teammates support him. Penaldo would have won the World Cup, but respect is earned, not bought. Thank you, my friend, for your donation. And I was going to mention this in yesterday's video. In case you guys don't know, I did make a video last night, pretty late at night, about how Argentina was able to pull off last night's or yesterday's comeback against Egypt, which also explained how they won the World Cup, how they won the Copa America, two Copa Americas, and the Finalissima. And it has to do with this new generation of players. Well, they're not new anymore, but the generation of players in Argentina. A lot of them grew up watching Messi on TV. They watched him carry the Argentine team, and constantly being disappointed, right? And when they grew up and when they joined the team, they knew that it was their job to help support the GOAT, the greatest ever, and do what previous generations weren't able to do, right? And here's the thing: why you don't see that in Portugal, because technically we could see that in Portugal too, right? Because Portugal also wasn't that great. I mean, Argentina, yeah, sure, they won two World Cups before Messi, but until Messi won the Copa America, Argentina hadn't won anything in 30 years, right? So you could say Messi and Penaldo were in the same position where they both were the best in their national squads. They both joined their national squads. They hadn't won anything in many, many years. And yet we saw this phenomenon with Messi in Argentina where this new generation of players gave everything to make sure their leader, their captain, actually wins trophies because they knew he had been disappointed so long, as opposed to Portugal's team. They didn't do that for Penaldo. And why is that? Because Messi always made it about his country, always made it about his teammates, right? Every interview you hear Messi, he talks about how great the Dibu is and how Dibu is the greatest goalkeeper in the world and how Julián is the best attacker and how how Lautaro is the best nine and how Enzo is the best midfielder and how, I don't know, Molina is the best defender. And he's always like praising his teammates, praising his coach. Has always done it, right? He's gave everything for his country and has always made it about his country and about his team. Meanwhile, Penaldo, he literally said after his elimination from the World Cup, before Cristiano, and he said it literally like this, speaking in the third person, before Cristiano, Portugal hadn't won anything, which in other words, it's thanks to me that Portugal had won. And it's like, bro, first of all, the Two Nations League that you won, which is a trash trophy that nobody respects, Nation League didn't even exist before you were in Portugal. So, of course, before you in Portugal hadn't won any Nations League because the trophy didn't even exist. You moron. And then as far as the Europa League, Portugal finished third in their group in that Europa League. In the final, you didn't even play. And the person who scored the winning goal was Eder. And it's like, but no, right? It's like, fuck my teammates, fuck my team. It's about me. It's thanks to me. And this is why we don't see the Portuguese players sacrifice and be as close to Penaldo as the Argentine players are to Messi. Because when you're a douchebag who wants to take the credit for everything, remember that Bluetooth goal that he scored in the World Cup? I mean, can you imagine being that selfish where your teammate scores a goal and instead of being happy that you're up, no, you try to steal his goal away? Like, can you imagine being that shitty of a person? And that's the thing. When you're a shitty person, well, why would you expect your teammates to sacrifice and give everything for you? Why? So you can continue taking all the credit. So you can continue acting like, oh, they're just a bunch of bums and they should be happy to play with you? No, they're not going to do that. Messi doesn't do that, and that's why his teammates give everything for him. And that's a lesson in humility for him, which of course he's never going to learn. He's fucking 41 years old and he's still acting like a dumbass teenager. But anyways, let's move on to the next bit of news. But thank you, Sanjuk, for your donation. Let's talk about Hamza Abdelkarim, because, ladies and gentlemen, it's being reported that Barcelona have different plans for the Egyptian striker. Now, Barcelona signed Hamza back in the winter transfer market. As soon as he turned 18, they signed him on loan from Al Ahly, which is the Egyptian club. They signed him on loan for the remainder of the season. And, of course, when the summer comes, Barcelona immediately jumped on the opportunity to sign him on a permanent transfer, activating that option to buy, which I think Barcelona paid like close to 2 million euros, which is absolutely nothing given the potential that this guy truly has. Now, initially, It took Hamza Abdelkarim a long time for him to start playing because there was a lot of bureaucratic problems with the paperwork, with immigration, etc., etc. So Hamza Abdelkarim, and he also got injured. So he only ended up playing for 2 months for the Juvenil A, or the under 19 team. And during which he did score 6 goals. As soon as he started playing, he started scoring goals. He got called up to the World Cup. He has debuted in the World Cup for Egypt, who of course were eliminated yesterday at the hands of Argentina. But one thing is clear, and that is that Hamza Abdelkarim is someone that's very, very promising. From how fast he adapted to the Juvenil A and how fast he started scoring goals for the Juvenil A, to how he to the fact that he has already debuted for Egypt with the number 9 on his back, and it didn't matter to him. Most young kids, you put them as the start as the number 9. Like, it's a lot of pressure, and he took it like it's absolutely nothing. So from putting all this together, it's clear that Hamza Abdelkarim is someone who's destined for greatness, who is, as many people in Egypt have reported, the greatest thing to come out of Egypt since Mo Salah. Now, putting all this together, of course, Barcelona now have different plans. The natural transition would have him to go from the Juvenil A to Barça Athletic, to the reserve team. But now Barcelona think that Barça Athletic might not be the right place for him. And that's because they believe that the first team would be a better fit for Hamza Abdelkarim, which shows you how much trust Barcelona have put in him. To go from only playing 2 months in a Juvenil A to skip Barça Athletic, go to directly in the first team, tells you that Barca's coaches see something very special in this guy, because only very few players have skipped the Barça Athletic. One of them is, of course, Lamine Yamal, who went from Juvenil A directly to the first team. I'm not saying that Hamza Abdelkarim is Lamine Yamal, but again, this just goes to show that Barca's coaches see something very special in the Egyptian attacker. So Barcelona are now planning to promote Hamza to the first team. Of course, Hamza has already been called up to the preseason with Hansi Flick. So unless he does absolutely terrible in the preseason, it's looking like he will be a first team player. Now, of course, don't expect him to be starting matches and getting crazy minutes. This is something more that, Barca want Hamza to be there in the first team, training with the first team players, learning from Hansi Flick directly, and then getting some minutes here and there so he can grow and develop, because technically he could get a lot more minutes with Barça Athletic, but the training, the learning from his teammates, from Flick, could do him a lot more than actually playing with Barça Athletic, because at the end of the day, Barça Athletic is in 4th division, and even though playing in 4th division, even though he would get more minutes in 4th division, the experience he would get with the first team, it would be a lot bigger. Now, Barça Athletic have signed Ignacy Kerr, which of course I told you about in a previous video. They do have Oscar Gistau, an incredibly promising striker currently in the academy. So it's expected that those two will take on the responsibility of playing the number 9, while Hamza Abdelkarim continues his development with the first team, which is, I gotta say, absolutely exciting. Now, why does Barcelona want Hamza in the first team? Well, pretty simple, because he is an actual 9, right? Even if Barcelona are successful with signing Julián, it would be Julián and Ferran alternating for that position, but none of them are a true 9, right? Hamza is. He's a classic 9. He's someone who has physical presence in the box, knows how to perform hold up play, can be a reference point for the rest of the team, like the wingers or the attacking midfielder. So having Hamza on the first team is not only would be great for him, because he would grow a lot more, but it would also provide Hansi Flick with a profile that he currently doesn't have on the first team. And even with the signing of Julián, he still wouldn't have on the first team. So Hamza skipping Barça Athletic and going directly to the first team, which, like I said, I'm very, very excited. I think this guy is special. I think we're going to see Hamza do some pretty great things in his career. But having said that, of course, it's going to be very important not to put the pressure on him. Don't just because he's showing promise, just because Barca want to put him in the first team. We shouldn't go all crazy and all of a sudden expect him to be Lewandowski in the next 6 months, right? We got to take our time with him, allow him the time, allow him the cushion to grow, to develop, to learn, because at the end of the day, number 9 is a pretty difficult position. It's something that most players don't really grow into until in their prime. So we got to be patient with this guy, but I got to say he's looking very promising. All right, let's get back to the comment section, and then we are going to talk about Julián because we do have some updates, and they're actually good updates. But first, I'm going to take a sip of my wine. This has become a tradition now, doing the podcast while sipping on wine because, well, I love doing podcasts because I get to read you guys' comments, but also, why not drink some wine? Combine two of my favorite hobbies, podcasts and drinking. Edward says, Mo, what World Cup rules would you keep for La Liga? For me, no 5 seconds for throw-ins, no 10 seconds for goal kicks, only offside watches, the rest bye-bye further. Who's going to win the World Cup? I think I agree with you. I think I really do like the whole throw-ins. You know, they give them 5 seconds. If you take too long, you switch. The other team takes it. I also do like the goal kicks rule. I agree, you know, because we've seen it, right, with teams who like to waste time, like Getafe, for example. This is where we burn the clock. It's like, oh, throw in. All right, I'm going to go. I'm going to take my sweet time, cross the whole field. I get there. I pick up the ball. Then my team is like, no, I'll take it. Oh, my bad. Here, you take it. And then my teammate takes his sweet-ass time and walks the whole field until and the same thing with a goalkeeper, right? He takes his sweet time. He drinks some water, put the ball, and is like, hey, let me look. Hey, everybody go. And it's like, I like those. I like that fact that, you know, you get a timer, and if you can't, then boom, you're out. I also like the substitution rule, where you have how long is it? 7 seconds. I can't remember how many seconds you have to, like, if you get subbed out, you have I think it's 7 seconds to get off the field for your teammate to come in. If you take too long, if you take longer than the allotted time, your teammate that's going in for you has to wait an entire minute. So in other words, your team is down a man for a whole minute. I like that one too. I would also add that rule to La Liga. What I would not add is the whole you have to wait a whole minute outside once if the medics come to check you out. Now, I understand the purpose of the rule. They did it so people don't fake injuries, right? And it's kind of like, you know, if you fake an injury and the medics come in and check on you, you're going to have to wait a whole minute outside of the field, which means your team is going to play a whole minute down a man. I get that, you know, doing that to discourage people faking injuries, I'm sorry. But what I don't like about that rule is if your injury is real, like you truly did take a big hit and the medics have to check on you, and now you get punished for it. So the team that caused the foul, that beat you up, now they get rewarded because they get to play 11 men versus 10 for a whole minute. And you who took the hit, now you get punished, and your teammates get punished because now you're out for a whole minute. So even though I see why they implemented it to prevent fake injuries, at the end of the day, it ends up punishing the team who received the foul. And it's like you should be punishing the team who caused the foul, not the team who received the foul. Who's going to win the World Cup? I mean, on paper, it looks like France. They're the strongest team from all the teams remaining. But between paper and reality is a big difference, right? France really got exposed against Paraguay. And I know people say, well, you know, Paraguay, that didn't look like football. It was a UFC match, blah, blah, blah. Yes, I 100% agree with you. By the way, I had already said that before. I was like, this is why I'm against expanding the World Cup, because it allows teams like Paraguay to play the World Cup, which they have no business playing. When I said that, I was this awful person who was against, you know, smaller countries making it to the World Cup. But when people saw how Paraguay played against France, all of a sudden, it was like, oh, look, that's exactly what I said. But anyways, I'm not disagreeing. What Paraguay did was awful. But here's the thing. We see this kind of play all the time. Smaller teams, they do this kind of thing because not all smaller teams, obviously. Cape Verde, God bless them, amazing football. Egypt, amazing football. But usually smaller teams with less resources, sometimes they resort to this kind of play because that's the only way they can stop much bigger, more powerful teams, right? In La Liga, we see Getafe do stuff like that all the time. So we know that this kind of football exists. So a team like France should be able to handle that kind of football, especially because you already know they play like that. I mean, we live in the age of information where these coaches have access to millions of hours of football where you can watch tape about any team in the world, any player in the world. And it's like, it's not like it was a secret. It's not like Paraguay showed up and it was like, oh my God, they play tough. Oh, I had no idea. It's like, well, of course you have an idea. You already know that. So France should have been able to have a plan in place to handle that kind of play, and they did it. And they didn't. I mean, they needed the help of a penalty to win. Meanwhile, the U.S. dismantled Paraguay 4-1. So don't tell me it's not doable. It clearly is, because the U.S., a much more inferior team to France, were able to dismantle Paraguay and win 4-1. And France, with all its stars, with Mbappé, Olise, Dembélé, Doué, Papoupé, they couldn't do it. Then maybe they're not as strong as we thought. But anyways, Spain's, I thought Spain was one of the favorites. They haven't impressed me too well. Argentina, they haven't impressed me that much. I feel like it's back to the olden days where Messi has to constantly save them. So I don't know. On paper, it's France, but paper and reality, two different things. Bisca Michael says, Mo, I have to say Argentina was giving way too many fouls, especially in that halfway line when the defender got dispossessed. Real Madrid fans can't handle when the ref bias isn't on their side. I don't know if Argentina was giving too many fouls or not, but what people are complaining about, saying that it's corruption, it's clear not. Like, for example, the goal that Egypt got canceled because of the foul. That's a clear foul. I mean, you see in the video, the Egyptian player steps on the foot of Lisandro Martinez, and that allows him to take the ball. That play started with a foul. That means the play doesn't count, right? Now, I saw some idiot who thought he was being smart. He was like, oh, in that case, you can go all the way back for the whole 90 minutes when the match started and count. It's like, no, you fucking moron. It's when the play started. When does a play end? A play ends when the ball goes out or possession switches. Did the ball go out after the Egyptian player stole the ball from Lisandro? It didn't. Did the ball switch possession? Did it go to Argentina? It didn't. So it's the same play. And therefore, the whole thing doesn't count because of the foul. Now, the other play that they complain about is when Argentina scores a goal, they say there was a foul on Mo Salah. There was no foul. Why? Because Julian Alvarez takes the ball from Mo Salah fair and square, clean, right? He takes the ball, and in the follow-through, Mo Salah trips on Julián. This is the same thing as a slide tackle, right? When you slide tackle for the ball, if you get the ball first and then your opponent trips on you, because that's usually what happens if you slide in front of someone, the other player is going to trip on your body. That's not a foul, right? Because you got the ball. And then in the follow-through, he trips on you because, well, we're not ghosts. We're humans. That's not a foul. If you get him first and then the ball, that's a foul. Well, it's the same thing applies here, right? When Julián gets the ball from Mo, he gets the ball first, clean, without fouling, without stepping on Mo, without hitting Mo, without making any contact with Mo. He just takes the ball, and then Mo trips on Julián. So that is not a foul, right? So, but again, rules that don't really apply. This is pretty simple. This is sore losers who don't know how to deal with disappointment. So instead of accepting it, they have to make up excuses. But, that's what losers do, like I said. And the reason I say this is because I hope if there's anything you take out of this is that next time you do face disappointment in your life, because you will face disappointment in life, because we all do, is not to do what these people are doing and start blaming others. Oh, it's this, it's that, it's rigged, it's unfair, they don't like me, they hate me. No. If you truly want to progress in life, you truly want to succeed in life, the next time you face disappointment, sit down and accept it and think about, okay, what did I do wrong? And how can I prevent that from happening again? Because if you do that, the next time you try, you're going to do better. You might still fail. And you might fail many, many times. But as long as every time you fail, you accept your failure and try to learn from it, eventually you will succeed. But if every time you fail, you blame someone else or something else, or just say, oh, it's rigged, or I couldn't get that job because, I don't know, the manager doesn't like me or whatever, then you're never going to get better. And you're always going to fail, right? And that's what these losers don't understand. So don't be a loser like these people. Kaspa says, I feel like it's too early to promote Hamza because he will not be getting any minutes and end results will start looking for minutes somewhere else. I mean, look, could he end up doing that? Sure. But as long as he understands that, hey, I need to be patient. I need to learn first. I need to grow first before asking for minutes, he'll be fine. If he becomes impatient and wants to get minutes somewhere else, that's on him, right? I mean, Messi was a substitute for a long time when he first got promoted to the first team. And he's the greatest ever. So if the greatest ever can be patient and be a sub and take whatever minutes were thrown his way, then I think Hamza can too. Now, if he cannot, oh well. That's his problem. Let's hope that doesn't happen. Barca Got Culture says, always remember Messi lose 2 Copa finals and a World Cup because FIFA rigged it against him. Well, they didn't really rig it against him. Again, we got to stop excusing results that we don't like with just rigging. And that's just football. Yeah, you can argue that that goal that Higuaín scored shouldn't have been disallowed because the ball did come off on a German player who was trying to, I can't remember what German player who was trying to clear it. But, you know, that's part of the sport. Referee mistakes happen. But to suggest that there's some kind of intentional purpose or intentional, you know, there's some kind of conspiracy to make sure he doesn't win. I think that just completely discredits the whole sport, right? And it's like you can't have it both ways. You can't say when my team wins, it's fair. When my team loses, it's a robbery. It's either always rigged, and that means when your team wins, it's also rigged, which means whatever your team accomplished, it's also bullshit, or it's never rigged, and that means when your team wins, it was fair, and when it lost, it was also fair. You're going to have it both ways, right? And that's, for example, what idiot Madridistas don't understand when they say, oh, La Liga is rigged, and that's why Barca have it. Well, if it's rigged, that means that La Ligas that Madrid won were also rigged. It means that their leagues also didn't count. So, yeah. Anyways, let's get back to the news. But we do have to talk about Julian Alvarez. I know you guys are probably tired of hearing about Julian, but we do have to talk about Julian because we do have an update. And this update comes from Mateo Morata, who has revealed that, well, things are looking a bit better for Barcelona. Now, as you know, Julian told Atletico he wants to leave and he wants to join Barca and Barca only. After that, he reached an agreement to join Barca, and Barca submitted an offer for him, which went completely unanswered. And since then, Atletico Madrid's position publicly have been the same. Julian is not for sale. If you want him, you got to pay his 500 million euro release clause. This, of course, prompted Julian to make those public statements during the World Cup that he did want to leave, that a transfer was best for all the parties involved, because, well, he reached a point where he got tired because Gilmarín, which is one of the stakeholders in Atletico Madrid, had promised him that he would, allow him to leave and join Barca. And seeing how Atletico Madrid did not answer Barcelona's offer, they went on the offensive, making a fool out of themselves with those tweets. And then, reaching an agreement with Arsenal or reaching an agreement with PSG, then doing that whole PR stunt with Madrid. And Julian was like, you promised me you would allow me to go to Barca, and then you do everything else except that. So he gets mad. He makes those statements. But despite Julian making those statements saying that he wanted to leave, Atletico Madrid maintained its position or its stance that Julian is not for sale, and that if Barcelona or anyone wants him, they have to pay his release clause worth 500 million euros. Now, the update is that it looks like Apollo are now, for the first time, considering the exit of Julian. Now, if you're asking Mo, who's Apollo? Is he the boxer from Rocky? It's not. It's not. Apollo is an investment group. And earlier this year, Apollo acquired 55% stake in Atletico de Madrid. In other words, they are now the major shareholder of Atletico Madrid. And owning 55% of the shares, well, what you say goes, right? And the reason why Apollo did that is because, of course, they saw this as an opportunity, right? Buy a big stake in Atletico Madrid, pump some money in it. That's how, excuse me, that's how they were able to make a lot of their signings. And then, turn Atletico Madrid into a European giant and then reap the rewards because, of course, being a European giant means you make a lot of money. Now, Apollo, who are the major stakeholder in Atletico Madrid, are now, for the first time, changing their stance and now actually considering the exit of Julian Alvarez. Now, Apollo, as an investment group, they prefer that Julián goes somewhere else outside of Spain because they don't want to reinforce a direct rival, right? But at the same time, they know that Julián only wants Barcelona. So they prefer him to go somewhere else, but they know that's not going to happen because Julián has made it clear. It's Barca and Barca only, which that, of course, ties their hands and doesn't leave them much option but to sit down and negotiate with Barca. Now, as I told you in yesterday's video, it's been revealed that there's already been communication between Barca and Atletico for the first time since this whole ordeal began, and that the agreement was, once the World Cup is over, we'll talk. And Barca are considering making an improved offer once the World Cup is over. And now with Apollo changing their stance, well, the possibility of both clubs sitting down at the negotiating table is much, much, much bigger than it was yesterday or the day before. And honestly, I kind of expected this to happen because at the end of the day, Apollo is an investment group. And an investment group has to look at this from the, investment point of view. You have a player that you spent 75 million euros on, and someone is willing to pay you a lot more than that. That's an offer you would, even if Barca just paid the 100, which is going to be more, but let's say only paid 100, you're still talking about a big profit. You're still talking about selling an asset for a lot more than what it's actually worth. And you're still talking about a lot of money that you can you can use, you can turn around and then use it to sign 3 players instead of 1. So from the investment perspective, it's a pretty good deal. Now, Cerezo can come out, who's the president of Atletico Madrid and the CEO, and talk about this and that. But at the end of the day, he doesn't have power anymore because who do is Apollo, because they own 55% stake in that club. And if Apollo are considering the exit of Julián, well, Cerezo can take his words and shove them where the sun don't shine. Now, as far as Julián, I know a lot of people have told me, Mo, well, he's not really an actual 9. Why would Barcelona want him? Well, here's where we have another new report, which kind of shines some light on why Flick wants Julian Alvarez. And the reason why he wants him is exactly why the reason who people wonder, why does Hansi Flick want Julián, right? They say he's not a true 9. Why would Hansi Flick want him? Well, that's exactly why Hansi Flick wants Julian Alvarez, because he is not an actual 9, right? Instead, Julián offers Hansi Flick a different kind of profile, right? Someone who can drop into the midfield and combine with his teammates, someone who can drift into wide areas, in other words, into the wings to create overloads and press aggressively without the ball. And all those characteristics, Julián is not just like Lewy, for example. He was the kind of guy that just stays in the box, right? A box killer. Julián is not that. Yes, he could be in the box and score goals, but again, he can drop to the midfield, combine with his teammates, go into the wings and help with the pressure and spread the defense. So the fact that Julian can do all this, can move around, can float around, and not just stay in the box, that's why Hansi Flick wants him. Because he believes that this adds unpredictability to Barca's attack, right? When you have a 9, a fixed 9, a reference point for the team, well, you know that all the balls are going to go to him. You can shut him down. But when you have someone like Julian who can do that, but at the same time can drop to the middle, go to the left wing, go to the right wing, all of a sudden it becomes a lot more difficult to predict what Barca's going to do next because this guy is all over the place, right? So I know people have complained, like, well, he's not really a 9. We need someone more like Kane. Well, it turns out that that's exactly why Hansi Flick wants him, because he's not your typical 9. You know, he's kind of like a Ferran Torres, but obviously a million times better. God bless you, Ferran Torres. Now, as far as your typical 9, as I mentioned a few moments ago, Barcelona will be looking to promote Hamza Abdelkarim. So Barcelona will get its typical 9. Obviously, it's not going to be, someone who's ready right away, but someone who can grow into that role as time goes by. All right, let's get back to the comment section, and then we'll do more news. We'll talk about Kroupi, which I know a lot of you people like him. But first, I'm going to take a sip of my wine. Guess my act says, Mo, do you think Alvarez will regain his best form again with Barca when he comes? I hope so. I mean, here's the thing. And here's why I could be hopeful. Because if Flick can turn Ferran, a sardine, into a shark, and can turn Rafinha, who for his whole career was an average player, into the amazing player that he was not last season, but the one before, can you imagine what he can do with Julián, a legit, incredibly talented player? Whew. So, yeah, I hope so, and I have good reasons to be hopeful, right? This is not just hoping for the sake of hoping. Caspa says, hey, Mo, why Barcelona have called the search for the right back? Well, that's because there never was a search for a right back, right? Barcelona wanted to sign Cancelo, and they're about to, but there was never really an effort to look for a right back. Why would they, right? They have Koundé, they have Eric Garcia, they have Xavi Espar, they have Hector Fort. So they have plenty of options there, and plus Cancelo, who is technically a right back, but he's going to be playing on the left. So there's no reason why to search for a right back. Let me see. Real Football says, I really don't agree. PSG has Doué, Kvaratskhelia, Barcola on the same wing. Like, how are we going to go from Yamal to Adeyemi? I'd rather get a La Masia backup. I don't know if I understand what your point is. Are you saying that Adeyemi is not good enough to be Lamin's backup, that it's better to get a La Masia backup? Because I don't know if that's true. If that's what you're referring to. If not, please let me know in the comment section below or in the chat section. Big She West says, guys, we're 234 people watching. Please press the like button to keep the channel improving. Yes, please. Thank you for bringing that up. Hit that like button. The like button is actually the most important thing you can do. The more likes a video gets, the more YouTube promotes the video to people who've never seen it. And that's very important. And again, it only takes a second. It goes click. It's free. They're not going to ask you for your credit card number. They're not going to ask you to donate blood. They're not going to ask you to sell your house. It's completely free. So please help a brother out. And Sanjay with the donation. Let's fucking go. Thank you, my friend, for your generosity, for donating for the second time tonight. My Sanjay says a Kanye Barça El Clásico collab would be dream. Kanye Barça. I don't know about that. And I'll tell you why. And this might be controversial, but it's okay. When have I ever been a non-controversial person on the channel? If we're talking about old Kanye, yes. Like high school dropout, back in the day. Yes, absolutely. But today's Kanye, the guy who's gone off the rails, I don't know, man. I don't know. I think I don't think Kanye has as much cachet as he did before. And for me, Barca should do collabs with the hottest selling artists, right? Even if it's like someone who we don't care about, because at the end of the day, it's about what generates the most sales, right? So, for example, for me, Taylor Swift. Now, I'm not a Swiftie. In fact, I can't even stand her music. When I hear her music, it makes me want to swim into a boat's propeller and have the boat propeller just shred my head. But she is one of the hottest selling artists. So if that means Barcelona selling El Clásico jerseys like hot bread, then yes, absolutely. Bad Bunny, right? He's another one of the hottest selling artists. That would be great, whether you like him or not, because at the end of the day, that can translate into a lot of sales, right? But I don't know if Kanye could do that. Plus, Kanye has become too controversial. And again, I miss the old Kanye, man. I miss the old Kanye. What did they do to you, Kanye? What did they do to you? What did they do to you? Anyways, thanks, my friend, for your donation. Let's see. If Evgeny says Messi's so good, they call everything rigged. When you're so good at the game, the opponents start calling you a hacker type of shit. Yeah, you know what? You're right. I hadn't thought about that because I haven't gamed in a while, but I used to game a lot more. But yeah, I remember when you're gaming and someone is really good and killing everybody, what's the first reaction of everyone else playing? He's hacking. And like I said, unfortunately, this is times we're living in. I don't know if it was always like that and social media just brought it to light or if it's more of a new phenomenon. But I feel like these days it's just a lot easier to just say something's rigged or something's hacked or something is against me than just admitting, hey, maybe you just suck, right? Maybe I'm not hacking. Maybe you just fucking suck and I'm better than you. No, I gotta be hacking if I'm better than you, right? It's sad, man. It's sad, but what can we do? What can we do? This is why I drink, so I can forget. Yeah, I'm kidding. Says, have you heard of Karim Adeyemi's transfer rumor to Barca? What's your take? So I did mention it at the beginning of this video that I have seen the reports. I personally haven't been able to confirm it with sources close to the club. And this is why I will not be mentioning it. I'm not saying it's a lie. I'm not saying it's a lie. I'm not saying it's true. I'm saying nothing. Pretty much. I being I, that makes sense. When it comes to news, I like to first double, triple, quadruple confirm it. And don't get me wrong, it would be a lot more easier for me to make videos about any kind of report. It's a lot less work if I just saw something on Twitter and just went and made a video about it, right? Because I don't have to double, triple, quadruple check it, right? It's a lot easier to just make a video without doing the work. And B, I would actually probably have a lot more subscribers because who doesn't want to follow a channel that tells them, hey, Barca just signed Mbappe versus someone who comes and while everyone says Barca signed Mbappe, comes and says, no, guys, Barca has not signed Mbappe. No one wants to see that fucking guy who tells them that everything they're reading is a lie, right? So don't get me wrong. I would get a lot more likes. I would get a lot more follows, but that's not what I'm here for, right? I'm here to bring you news that has been corroborated. I don't want to say 100% real news because I'm sure every now and then something that's not true might slip, but I try to do my due diligence. And I haven't been able to confirm it on my own. I did see the reports, but don't worry. If I confirm it, I will make a video about it. But if we can have Adeyemi as Lamin's backup, I welcome it because that means Lamin could get a lot more rest. But anyways, let's do the last bit of news. Let's talk about Julian Alvarez's alternative. And that is Eli Jr. Kroupi, the 20-year-old Bournemouth attacker, someone that's considered one of the most promising talents in all of Europe, someone who just had an incredible season in the Premier League, someone who came out from Lorient, joined Bournemouth and absolutely killed it last season during his debut season, someone who has a lot of creativity, great shot, speed. I mean, you name it. This guy has it. And someone that Barcelona have been tracking for quite some time. And someone who Barcelona have made their number one option be. I know that makes no sense, but it will now that I will explain it. As you know, the number one priority for Barca is Julian Alvarez. If that signing doesn't go through, Barcelona have a long list of players that could come in the place of Julián. You know, people like Osimhen, people like Vlahovic, you know, all these other players that Barcelona consider as backup plans for Julián. But out of the sea of players that Barcelona consider as backups in case Julián doesn't come, the number one option is Kroupi. In other words, if Julián doesn't work out, right behind him in line is Kroupi. And if Kroupi doesn't work out, there's the rest of the names. But Kroupi is the number one backup option to Julián in case Julián doesn't come. Now, the good news is that Kroupi is willing to come to Barcelona, even though there are many clubs interested in him, including Tottenham, including PSG, including Arsenal, even though I feel Arsenal are lately interested in everybody. They're kind of like Chelsea, except Chelsea just buys everybody, but Arsenal it becomes interested in everybody. So Arsenal, hey, if you guys interested in me, please do. I'm old, I suck, I can't provide anything to benefit. But hey, if you wanna be interested in me, I'm all for it. I'll move to London. I like London. And despite again of the interest of multiple clubs in him, he does prefer Barcelona. In fact, he's a Barcelona fan. He's never hit it. He has many posts always talking about Barca this, Barca that. He has pictures with Barcelona jerseys. So when it comes to all the clubs interested in him, if he had to choose, he would choose Barca. That's the good news. What's the bad news? Well, the bad news is that Bournemouth, on one hand, have said that he's not for sale, even though in the world of football, we kind of know that's a little bit not true, at least for non-giants, right? You know, like if Barca says Lamine is not for sale, then he's not for sale because why would Lamine want to leave Barca? When you have someone like Kroupi and you're Bournemouth, you might say he's not for sale, but well, if a big club comes and tempts him, he's going to be like, I want to leave, and you're going to be forced to sell him, right? But Bournemouth have, on one hand, said he's not for sale, but even if he is, it's reported that Bournemouth have set a price tag of 100 million euros, which, of course, is a lot of money for a 20-year-old. Now, you might say, Mo, what are you talking about? Barcelona willing to offer more than that for Julián. So technically, Kroupi could be cheaper than Julián. And yes, you are right. But here's the thing. Julián is already a true and tried player, right? Someone with experience. He's played in the Premier. He's played in La Liga. Someone who has won important things. I mean, he's a World Cup winner, for Christ's sake. He has won things with Manchester City. So he's a player that's true and tried. You know what he has to offer. You know that he can come and be an important player. Kroupi, it's a little bit of doubt. Not because he's not talented. He's obviously incredibly talented, but he's still 20, right? And at that age, he can go either way. He can either come and absolutely kill it, or he can come and flop. After all, he's only had one good season at Bournemouth. Not because he's had bad seasons, but because he's only been one season at Bournemouth, right? So it's a lot harder to judge a 20-year-old and say with certainty that he could be worth 100 million euros as opposed to someone who's already proved that he could be worth that. Even though I still believe that 150 million is way too much for Julián. Anything above 100 million is way too much for Julián. So this is where we stand, right? And this is why You can see why Barcelona would consider Kroupi more as an option B as opposed to an option A. Because at the end of the day, he's only 20. He's still young. He still lacks experience. You still don't have that certainty that he will flourish, right? We've seen many players at that age completely shine and then they either plateau or take a dive, right? I'm not saying that that's what's going to happen with Kroupi, but obviously it's a lot more difficult to predict where Kroupi is going to go than where Julián's going to go because Julián's already in his prime. So you don't need to predict where he's going to go. You already know where he's at. So this is why. But don't get me wrong, I'm a big fan of Kroupi. I think Kroupi would be an amazing signing. My question to you is, who would you sign? Julián? Kroupi? Let me know down below. And with that, we're done with the news. Let's do a few more comments and then I gotta go. I gotta go have dinner because I'm starving. Let's see. Blah, 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 blah. Where did we live off? Okay, I can't remember. There we go, right here. Tunde says, Mo, how are you? I'm an African, but I disagree with you. The theory Egypt and some and their coach are trying to put out there because I was 2-0 until 80 minutes. Why don't Egypt close the game? You know what? What's happening with Egypt, it's a shame. It's a shame because I thought Egypt played beautifully. I thought Egypt should be 1,000,000% proud of the World Cup they had, proud of the performance they had, proud of the match they played. And I feel like they are dirtying their image and dirtying their performance with everything else that's happening now after that Argentina game, with like the accusation that, oh, this match was rigged and FIFA is rigged. And it's like, bro, you blew a 2-0 lead in the last minutes of the match, okay? You got no one else to blame but you. You didn't blow the lead because all of a sudden Argentina were given 2 incredibly questionable penalties. No, they were like 3 goals in 10 minutes, and they were all from open play. And it's like, how do you rig that? You know, unless FIFA like paid some Egyptian players to purposely miss or something. And it's like, all right, well, in that case, that's still on you because why did your players accept the payment, right? I'm not saying that what happened, but, you know, and it's like they're doing all this show and all these statements. And even during the match, I mean, there was one of the assistants who looked like he was going to beat up someone and the ref showed him a red and he's like, everybody's holding him back and he's like pushing him and he's trying to go fight somebody. And it's like, bro, what are you doing, man? What are you, like, this is the World Cup. You're on the world stage. The whole world is watching. Like, what are you doing? You're making your country look bad, you know? And it's a shame. And it's a shame because they had such an incredible World Cup. They had an amazing performance against Argentina, but they made the mistakes that any team that parks the bus makes, the same mistake that any team that parks the bus makes, right? And it's like, even after the first goal, Egypt scored the first goal, and then they retreated and they just defended. And it's like, you can't do that against a team like Argentina. Like when you went head-to-head with Argentina, you scored a goal. When you went head-to-head again, you scored a second goal, which got disallowed. And then when you went head-to-head, you scored a third goal. So that right there should have told you, oh, if I go head-to-head with these guys, I can make a lot of damage. But instead, they chose to retreat, to defend. And it's like, you can't do that against a team that has the greatest player in the history of football, Lionel Andres Messi Cuchitino. You can't do that, okay? And it's like, you blew the lead because you did that. And that's on you. Don't try to blame it on someone else because you end up looking bad. And it's a shame because, again, Egypt had an incredible World Cup. And now people are not going to remember the incredible World Cup that Egypt have. They're going to remember all this drama. And that's sad, you know. It's like Mexico. Mexico had an incredible World Cup. And that's what people are going to remember, is Mexico's incredible World Cup, Mexico's incredible match against England. That's what people are going to remember. Now, imagine if after the England match, the players would have started fighting, the coaches would have started fighting, red cards, then Mexico would have come out and said, the refs cheated us, this is rigged, blah, 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 blah. People would have remembered that, and they would have forgot about how amazing Mexico did in the World Cup. But they did it, right? They knew how to lose. They knew, hey, fuck it. England beat us. What can we do? That's football. So now people are going to remember how amazing Mexico did, not the shit show that they created afterwards. And that's what's going on with Egypt. People are not going to remember the amazing World Cup that they had. Instead, they're going to remember the shit show that came after, that they created. And it's a shame. It's a shame. Anika says, hey, bro, joining the live after a long time. It's around 6:15 a.m. here. And how's your dog? Even I have a golden retriever just besides me. And keep up the good work, man. Biscal Barça. Biscal Barça, my friend. So actually, my dog is not a golden retriever. He's a golden doodle, which means he's a mix between golden retriever and poodle. He got attacked by a golden retriever a few days ago. His nose is all busted, like it's all cut, but he's fine. He's fine. It was weird. They were playing together. It was fine at the park. All of a sudden, the golden just went and they started fighting, and we separated them. And it's fine. It's fine. He handled his own. Not that I condone my dog fighting, but he got attacked. He has to defend himself, right? It's like my dad taught me when I was a kid. We don't start fights. We end them, right? Whenever I used to get in a fight, my dad would ask me, did you start that fight? And I'd be like, no. Okay, good job. But if I did start a fight, my dad would punish me because he always taught me, you never start a fight. You walk away from fights. But if someone else starts it, then you better make sure that you're going to end it. And that's a lesson that I always took with me in life. I'll never start a fight. I will walk away from a fight. Even if you spit in my face, I'm going to apologize to you. I'm going to say, I'm sorry. I'm going to walk away. But if you insist, then you better know I'm going to knock your ass out. And that's not just saying that. That's a guarantee. You guys know I've been fighting MMA for 8 years. And because of that, I don't like to fight because I know what kind of damage can be done in fights to yourself, to others. So I try to walk away from a fight as much as I can. If I have to run, I will run away from a fight. But if you insist, you're going to have to learn a lesson that day. Tunde says Egypt refused to close the game. They were 2-0 until the 80th minute, so they can't defend 10 minutes plus whatever added time to Egypt players, and coach should blame themselves. I agree with you. And Java the Hutt says Egypt has no shame. They say the game was rigged, but failed to mention that they had a 2-0 with 10 minutes, and Salah looked for the foul after the lost ball. I agree with you, my friend. I agree with you. And Kale says, I love when people don't watch the stream from the beginning. I noticed that people join and they're like, can you summarize what you already said? And it's like, no. Why would I do that to people who have already been watching? Like, they were here. They saw it. Anyways, Akibafar says Ferran or Vlahovic. Ooh. Ferran. Not because I think Ferran is better, but because Ferran is the evil that you already know. Does that make sense? Not that he's evil, but Vlahovic is kind of like this big question mark. Yes, he did great at Fiorentina, but at Juventus, he's been a disappointment. Ferran is a disappointment already, but at least we know that under Flick, he does work sometimes, right? Ferran, I mean, he still put up great numbers. Doesn't mean all of a sudden he's an amazing player and he should start. He's not. He still sucks. But at least I know that he can give us good numbers as a sub at Barca. Where Vlahovic, I don't know. I don't know if he can. He might be able to give us better number. He might give us worse. I don't know. Vlahovic is a question mark. Ferran, I know what I get with him, right? Ferran is kind of like, all right, we know. He can give you 20 goals off the bench, which is pretty good, by the way. Pretty good. Like, we like to make fun of him, but at the end of the day, as a sub, that's pretty good. You can't ask better than that. Where Vlahovic, I don't know. I don't know if he's going to be a good sub or not. Because remember, Barcelona would only sign him as a replacement for Ferran, not as a replacement for Lewy. In other words, he wouldn't be the starting. So I already know what I get with Ferran off the bench, which is pretty good numbers. I don't know what I can get with Vlahovic off the bench. So I'd rather stick with Ferran. Kind of like people when ask me about Van de Ven. I'm like, he's kind of the same profile as Araujo. And at least with Araujo, he's been at Barca many years. He knows the system. He's a captain. He has experience. So at least, I know what I'm getting with him. Barca Original says Barca is about to sign Adeyemi from Dortmund. Here we go. Anytime real soon. Do you think he's good as backup? I think Hansi is the one that requests for him. I mean, bro, as a backup for Lamine, he's a million times better than Rooney. So I'll take it. I'll take it any day. But anyways, that is all, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for tuning in. Oh my God, I'm so late. It's 9. I told my friend I was going to be at his house at 8 to have dinner. It's already 9. But that's okay because we did the podcast and I love the podcast. But thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, drop a comment, and as always, Biscarsa.